All right, guys, Sanj here. Welcome back to another episode on the Bodybuilding News Network, specifically another episode of Bodybuilding Today, where we're going to break down the first look at the 2021 Texas Pro in the men's open category. We are approximately 4 days out from the show day, where we'll have classic and 212 on the first day, and then open and women's bodybuilding as well on that second day, on that Saturday. So stay tuned for that. The live stream is available. If I get the link, I'll put it in the description below. But let's go ahead and start off with the scorecard. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. There is only, I believe, 6 or 7 athletes on the scorecard as of recording this video, but I'm going to be completely honest with you. There are going to be a lot more competitors hopping on the scorecard. I know that Iain Valliere has said that he's going to do this show. He wants to stand side by side by Steve Kuclo, the projected winner of the show. He wants to see how he's going to compare leading into the Olympia, since Iain Valliere has already qualified for the 2021 Mr. Olympia. And also Phil Clahar is also has said that he will be doing the show. He is, in my opinion, one of the favorites to win this show, as he just placed second, controversially at the 2021 Tampa Pro, behind a much less conditioned Iain Valliere. But we can get into that in just a moment. But let's go ahead and start off. Let's do our due diligence. Let's go ahead and start off with the first competitor, Camilo Diaz. Now, we just saw Camilo, apologies. We just saw Camilo Diaz compete at the 2021 Tampa Pro, where he placed 11th, I believe. Apologies, so I messed up that one. But I do believe he placed 11th. And looking at the most recent photos from that show, he's big, but he definitely has some room to improve, especially when we look at the high lat insertions. He's going to need to fill that out just a little bit more. I love the legs. I love how the conditioning comes all the way up into the posing trunks. Very 212-esque, something a lot of these 212 competitors has. But Camilo Diaz, I think he could do well at this show if he makes the proper improvements. That might take a couple of years, in my opinion. No disrespect, obviously, love this guy. I love his physique, but we're probably going to see him at that bottom of that first call out, depending on who shows up at the show, or even projectedly into that second call out. Next on the scorecard, as of recording this video, is Mokhamed El Emam. Sometimes they have the space between EL and then Imam, but on the NPC News Online website, it is Mokhamed with a K, El Emam. So if you guys want to look him up and look at the photos yourself, you are always welcome to. I'll put always the links are in the description to their Instagram, so you can follow them as well and check out their most recent physique updates on Instagram. But looking at his most recent shots, he competed at the 2021 Tampa Pro as well. A lot of these competitors competed at the 2021 Tampa Pro, so we are able to see a very recent physique update from them and exactly what we can expect to see from them coming into this next show, the 2021 Texas Pro in the men's open. Now, when we look at Mokhamed, apologies, I actually really like his physique. He flows very well. He's very massive, and he keeps his midsection in control. That's something that was not as common a few years ago, but it looks like a lot of people are making that correction, even with the mass monster era potentially coming into fruition with Big Ramy taking the helm at the Mr. Olympia. A lot of people are still keeping that really tight and controlled midsection. I love that. I appreciate that from Mokhamed El Emam. Great set of arms, a big full chest, very wide sweeping lasts. We already talked about the tiny waist, and then just crazy quads, crazy teardrops. This is probably one of the best teardrop developments in the IFBB right now, especially in the men's open. And then also a solid pair of calves on him. So definitely could do some damage at this show if he just brings a little bit more conditioning. When we're looking at that midsection, it looks very washed out, no disrespect. And then as well as looking at the back shots, the conditioning was off in Tampa. No disrespect. So hopefully him and his camp make those corrections coming into this Texas Pro. He could really do some damage. He's placed well this year. He's competed a lot this year. So best of luck to Mokhamed El Emam at this year's 2020 Texas Pro. Next on the list is Martin Fitzwater. The last time we saw Martin Fitzwater, I believe, was at the 2020 NPC North American Championships, where he won his pro card in the men's heavyweight category. So this could potentially, if my records are correct, this is going to be his pro debut in men's open. So making the jump into men's open instead of playing around the 212 or the classic. So I respect that. Very hard to tell what we're going to be expecting to see from Martin and his camp coming into the show. We'll take a look at his Instagram in just a second, but looking at the most recent photos from his stage shots in 2020, where he won his pro card, I really love the flow. I say this a lot, but this guy really has a great flowing physique. Tiny, tiny, tiny midsection. Looking at these obliques, there's nothing there. He's holding a very beautiful vacuum. The lats are very sweeping and beautiful. Great arm development, even in the triceps. The capped striated shoulders in this front and double looks fantastic. Moving past the midsection, we already talked about it. Huge quad sweeps, fantastic quad sweeps, especially on the foot that he's spiking here. And then the teardrop as well, very well developed. Adductors and abductors looking great as well. And then a comparable set of calves to go with that package. And looking at a photo that Martin posted on his Instagram as of July 14th, we can see that he looks like he's going to be coming in shape. And this is a while ago in the terms of contest prep. You know, it's 4 or 5 weeks out from the show when he steps on stage. But you can see vascularity in the arms, very classic-esque. So I love seeing that. It says the photo, it's 4.5 weeks out from the Texas Pro. So it looks like he's been planning for this show for a while. I really hope that he does well. If he brings the proper conditioning, he might be able to work through the size discrepancy that he might have with some of these people, like a Steve Kuclo and like an Iain Valliere. He could place very well if he brings that crazy level of conditioning like someone like Phil Clahar did. Phil is, I mean, I love his physique, but there are some parts on his physique that need some improvement in size. But because he brought that world-class conditioning, he was able to surpass some of those lackings, in no disrespect, and place very well. So likewise with Martin, I think he can do very well. He could bring that Rafael Brandeo level of classic posing, conditioning, crazy world proportions, and do well at this year's 2020 Texas Pro. Next on the scorecard is Douglas Fruchey. So he made his pro debut at the 2021 Tampa Pro just last weekend, or shoot, it's probably 4 days ago as of recording today. He placed 11th, respectfully. Now, it's kind of tough to predict how well he could do at the Texas Pro because he just competed, didn't make that second call out. He actually, if you look at my coverage on this channel of the 2021 Tampa Pro, he did draw my attention. He caught my eye in a lot of shots. I even said it in the videos, so you can check that out if you haven't seen those videos. They did very, very well. A lot of engagement, a lot of likes, so I appreciate that. I like his physique. He needs to improve on the legs. That's going to come in time. He's a brand new pro. He has just a beautiful structure. It'll be interesting to see how well he can fill it out and how quickly he can fill it out. If he can do something like a Mohammed Shaban in an off season, it's only going to spell success for this guy. So looking at the back shots for Douglas Fruchey here, again, kind of the same story. The glute development is fantastic, and the separation in the hamstrings is probably some of the best in the show. But there is a lacking when we're starting to look at that outer sweep from the back. Makes him look a little downsized in the back, but upper body, there's not too much that needs to be improved. He could probably put a little bit on with that lat sweep. But besides that, maybe a little bit more in the bicep peak. I give advice, I give critiques in the most purest form that I can. So when I say something like he should drive the elbows up to make the bicep peak look bigger in the back, that's because I've had people tell me to do that for myself with my own physique. So I'm not trying to tell him what to do. I'm just saying something that he could try. And I'm sure he already knows this. So I guess I'm just talking in circles. And since we just saw Douglas Fruchey compete at the 2021 Tampa Pro, we're going to be expecting to see a very similar package from him. So best of luck to Douglas Fruchey and his team coming into the 2020 Texas Pro. And next on the scorecard is Dorian Haywood, a frequent flyer on this channel when we're looking at these shows. He competes a lot, so hopefully we get to see a more conditioned package from Dorian Haywood. You'll see what I'm going to talk about in a second, but the last time that we saw Dorian Haywood compete was at the 21 Tampa Pro very, very recently. He placed 8th. I like what he brought. Dorian is one of those guys that just brings very energetic posing and very big full shape. He's not somebody who's going to be coming in looking small. And unfortunately, he's not someone that typically is going to be coming in with that Phil Clahar level of conditioning that he brought to Tampa. So if I would say one thing about Dorian is that I'd like to see him bring just a little bit more conditioning. I thought his tan was fantastic in the Tampa, so keep that. And also, if you can keep that level of fullness, do so as well. But if there is at all a chance that Dorian Haywood and his team can sacrifice just 5% of fullness for 5% more conditioning, I think that could really spell a much better placing for Dorian Haywood and his team coming into this Texas Pro. And like I said, he just competed at Chicago or at Tampa. Apologies. He just competed at Tampa. So we're going to expect to see a very similar package from him, but with the caveat of hopefully we can see just 5% more conditioning if that's something that they're thinking about doing. Next on the scorecard is Kevin Jordan. So if you guys were watching my coverage of the Tampa Pro, I kept mixing him up with another competitor. So I do apologize for that. But like I just kind of insinuated, the last time that we saw Kevin Jordan was at the 2021 Tampa Pro, where he placed 13th. So this is his first time being back in a while, from what I understand. So, it's not probably the placing that he wanted, but let's go ahead and break down his physique. So, man, as soon as I touch my nose once, it just gets super itchy. So I apologize. But looking at his physique, very wide up top, great clavicle. He has a great structure to really build some solid mass on there. So I'm wondering if he is doing one of those Nick Walker things where he's extenuating the wideness and longness of his torso, and it's almost taking away from his physique. I'm wondering if he just were to crunch those abs like a Nick Walker, if that would really help his physique look a little bit better. I'd love to hear in the comment sections below what do you guys think about that. Could that really make a big difference for him? Moving into the back shots, again, like crazy glute development and conditioning. The hamstrings are pretty washed out. No disrespect. So hopefully maybe it's flexing, maybe it's water retention. It looks like in the lower back, there's some water there as well as some wrinkling. So there's probably some water that could have been cut out here. Who knows what happened during the prep. And again, I kind of feel with the elbows, maybe if he drove those forward, it would help with the bicep peak. But let me know in the comment sections below what you guys think about that one. And same with all these other competitors. He just competed at the Chicago or the Tampa. So we're going to expect to see a very similar package from Kevin Jordan and his team at this year's Texas Pro. And next on the scorecard is Steve Kuclo. Like I said in the beginning of the video, Steve Kuclo is one of the favorites to win the show. He is one of those competitors that's always going to be placing in that top 2, top 3 at any given show, even those first tier shows, something like a New York Pro, something like an Indy Pro. He won the Indy Pro in 2019, and he also placed 4th at the Arnold, Ohio in 2020. So he's done very well when we're thinking about placings. He's been around the sport for a minute. So he's been doing very, very well. I was happy to hear that he was going to compete this season. I saw him doing a lot of business overseas, some entrepreneur type things in Greece, I believe it was. So I was happy to see him on this scorecard. The last time we saw him, like I said, was at the 2020 Arnold Classic, where he placed 4th. In looking at the photos, I thought that he brought a good package there. The chest, just maybe the way he's posing here, looks a little saggy. But the biceps look great, the shoulders look great, the quads look fantastic, tight, controlled midsection, all things that we like to see from somebody that is a projected winner of a show. In the back, although the lighting, I think this is the show Bonac won, or one of the Arnolds that Bonac won. The lighting was questionable, so it's really hard to even see where the lats end. But I think he looks pretty good. Hamstrings could use a little bit more conditioning. The lower back could use a little bit more conditioning, but he looks really, really good. The back shot, this back double is probably his best shot. And then even the hamstrings and the calves look good as well. So if he could bring a similar package to this, it probably would be enough to win it. Although talking about, actually, I'll hold my tongue for a second. We'll talk about Iain Valliere in a second, but the next person on the scorecard is Hassan Mustafa. Now, Hassan has competed quite a bit this season, so we probably are going to expect a very similar package to what we saw in Chicago. He took off Tampa, and he'll be coming into Texas ready to bring a more improved package. And something that's very interesting, and I know Fuad talked about it on his show. Make sure you subscribe to that as well. Is that Hassan Mustafa has consistently improved his conditioning while depleting throughout this entire year, and that's something that most people do not do. They do not become fuller and more dense and build muscle as they go through a cutting season. Usually they shrink, the skin gets thicker, the water retention becomes somewhat of an issue. But with a competitor like Hassan Mustafa, it would seem that he's actually getting better as we go through the competitive season. Now, I'm not under the delusion that this is a show-winning physique. He has a lot of conditioning that he needs to improve on, but he's also only a 27, 28-year-old competitor. He's literally my age, and he is doing very, very well with this much level of mass. So got to cut the guy a little credit. He's going to be a massive threat at the Olympia in a few years, given that he makes the improvements to his conditioning. From the back, again, just more conditioning. If he can just bring a little bit more conditioning and then sacrifice maybe potentially some fullness, I think that really could spell success for Hassan Mustafa in their team. Another competitor that is a favorite to do very well at the show and probably even win is going to be the 2021 Tampa Pro Champ in the Men's Open, Iain Valliere. He just won the 2021 Tampa Pro, as I just said, and we can really expect to see a good package from him moving into the Texas Pro. Now, something that I know I critique Iain for is I just don't think that he brings enough conditioning, and the live stream really speaks to that. But a lot of people were saying in the comment sections, a lot of big names on Instagram were saying that the photos speak more towards his conditioning and what he really looks like than the footage in the live stream. So I brought up the photos, I took a look at the photos, and as you can see here, I'm not crazy shocked with this level of conditioning. Just everything is, there's some vascularity, there's some separation in the quads, but it's borderline Rami-esque as it washes out into the posing trunks. I'm not trying to be a dick. The calves are non-existent. The midsection's tight. I like it. You can see visible abs. I like that. Crazy wide lats. Saggy, non-conditioned, non-ripped, no feathering in the chest, no feathering in the shoulders, no separation in the biceps. It's just not what I look at. It's not what I think of when I look at a Tampa Pro champ. Whereas we'll get into what Phil Clahar brought to that stage. This just isn't, it's not wowing me. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate in the comment sections below. I'm just giving my opinion. From the back, hamstrings spot on, very conditioned hamstrings. You can see all the feathering, very thick, dense glutes. You can see although I'd like to see more separation with it, you can see the feathering coming into this Christmas tree. You can see the separation in all the different lat and deltoid and rhomboid development. Crazy peaked biceps here from the back. And then also a well-developed trap, or the trap department. So he has a beautiful physique. It's big, it's full. It's just when I think of conditioning and separation, Iain Valliere is not on that list. Now, somebody that is, and I am an absolute fanboy of, is Phil Clahar, or Philip Clahar. The last time we saw him was at the 21 Tampa Pro, where he controversially, in my opinion, placed second behind Iain Valliere. Now, when we look at someone like Phil Clahar, he's been bodybuilding for like 4 years maybe. So he's a young chicken in the sport of bodybuilding, but he's 47 years old. So he's not a young chicken in the terms of time on the earth. No disrespect, but I use the front lat spread, or a variation of the front lat spread, for him because that is all Iain will post. He doesn't post, and he doesn't pose front double biceps. It's just not a pose that he likes, but it is what it is. I got to adjust for him because he's the champ. But when we look at Phil Clahar, amazing conditioning, the separation, the feathering, the calves, separated midsection. Now, one critique I did have for him is this lower midsection looks really Phil Heath-esque. It's washed out a little bit. So I'd like to see that get improved a little bit. I also love the wide lats. I love the shredded, conditioned pecs, separation in the biceps, the triceps, the brachialis, and then even traps. It's just a beautiful physique. It flows very well. It's definitely a physique that I think can win the Texas Pro. Moving into the back shots, although I wish that he would maybe try to do something like a Dorian Yates-esque posing, where he is a little bit more upright. The legs are a little bit more together to maybe make them look a little bit thicker. Phil Clahar is also a taller gentleman. I have a cat trying to jump on me, so I'm like blocking him right now. But he's a taller gentleman, but he looks fantastic. The conditioning is there. When we're looking at that, man, he's messing with my mic too. When we're looking at the lat insertions, it looks great. The traps are just crazy. The delts, the biceps, everything about that physique I love. I want to see him do very well at this Texas Pro. So hopefully that's something that we get to see. But let me know in the comment sections below, what do you guys think about Phil Clahar's placing or potential placing at this year's Texas Pro? Let me know who you have for a favorite coming into this Texas Pro, and who you would like to see on stage, as the scorecard, I'm sure, is going to get full or more filled up. As I'm sure that the scorecard is going to get more filled up as we move towards the Texas Pro approximately 4 days from now. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. As always, subscribe if you want to see more installments on the Bodybuilding News Network. But that's it, guys. My name's Sanch, your host. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you have not already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.